Welcome to Talk Purpose and Truth with Eden and Kim, shifting you into higher consciousness, the show that elevates, uplifts, and encourages listeners to grow, heal, awaken, and evolve. Eden and Kim include bold topics, special interviews with inspiring guests, intuitive readings, channeled messages from beyond, including celebrities, hot topics to expand your awareness, and time for questions from the audience. Tune in for unprecedented truth, authenticity, on-purpose discussions, and magical moments.
Introduce who we have on today. We already said her name is Ashley, and here's a little bit about her. She was recently married to Ferris Nance, a great listener. He is a great listener, big kid, and a personal trainer. They blended together, and they had two beautiful girls. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna say this right. Neve. Am I pronouncing her name right? Nevea? Nevea. Yeah. Okay, and she's 11, and she's fluent in Braille, and she's a jokester, a dancer, and a singer. And you have another daughter her name is Faith. Are they twins?
No,
they're both
we were
11.
blended together. Yeah.
Oh, blended
no.
family. I get it. I get it. Okay.
Yep, 10 and 11.
Yeah. Okay. And she's okay. So now I'm reading this wrong, but here I go. I'm going to pick it back up. So she's a quick thinker, a dancer, a singer, and a tumbler. And Ashley is a seeker of truth, and a student of life. She's certified in many different modalities of yoga and other teachings. Her passion and purpose is sharing seeds of yogic tools to those experiencing challenges on their journey. She provides services at a mental health hospital in North Dakota, and she has provided services also at addiction rehab facilities, prisons, and halfway houses. She has had 3 heart surgeries, a history of congestive heart failure, and was recently told it is no longer believed she has the heart failure. She has had 2 cervical spine surgeries, 1 stroke due to spinal surgery, and a gallbladder removal. Your walking miracle.
Yeah.
She has also experienced emotional and sexual abuse and domestic violence in the past. She loves being near water, going to the gym, and being outdoors. Wow.
Welcome, Ashley Nance.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. It's so nice to see both of you. Kind of in
you too. You're
Yeah.
such a bright light. I feel like we did see you because it was your picture and your voice, but now it's so nice to actually see you moving and look you in the eyes over Zoom.
I love it. I love it. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm so
from
glad,
North Dakota.
We do a lot, all the way from North Dakota. We do a lot of YouTube clips and Facebook clips and Instagram clips, and so I'm glad that our listeners are going to be able to see you because you look like you're 20 years old, and you look so vibrant, like you would never know you've gone through all these things, and it's such an inspiration. I know that on Instagram you call yourself Bionic Wildflower. Can you explain what that means?
Yes. So if it's very silent, my heart, you can hear it. It ticks. It sounds like a little clock. So after my last heart surgery, my friends started referring to me as Bionic Woman. So that's kind of where that all started. But for me, Bionic almost takes a deeper meaning. It's almost like resilient. And I kind of firmly believe that everybody's bionic in their own individual way. Everybody has their own inner superpower, whether you can hear it or not. So that's how Bionic started, the Bionic part.
Wow.
Wildflower, the flower part, I believe I started, it was in a nursing home. And one of my coworkers, I always smelled like essential oils coming in. And she's like, you smell like a flower. And this is something that kind of other people said. And then the wildflowers go and grow in mysterious places. And for me, the past trauma is kind of like the soil. And the seed of the wildflower is really the seeds of the teachings that my teachers have given me. The water would be anything to do to nourish that, right? And then the flower coming up would be the growth from that. And then once you come up as a flower, then you have seeds to give other people, to give and share other people. So that's where Bionic Wildflower comes from. And it's
That's
just
beautiful.
kind of fun. Yeah.
Do you have a tattoo of that?
I was gonna ask the same thing.
That's your next tattoo.
Right, it should be. It should be. That would be a cool tattoo.
You can design it. Yeah.
Yes.
Or a t-shirt.
Because Bionic Woman, you said that, and it suddenly made me remember Bionic Woman was my idol growing up, the TV show.
Ooh.
And her name on the show was Jamie Summers, and my last name is Summers. Now Summers, Egelsee. And I remember I was even her for Halloween back in the 80s when they had plastic face Halloween costumes.
Yeah.
Ashley's too young to remember.
I was thinking
Yes,
she might not. She's looking at you like you're crazy.
But yeah, so you made me think of. I always wanted to be her, and so you're the other Bionic Woman. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll own that. I can own that.
Yeah. So about the yoga, what does yoga mean? That's first part of my question. And how can we use it to find our truth and to help us during these hard times that we're going through right now?
Okay. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. Okay. And the reason I say this is yoga is something that needs to be studied for a lifelong. Right. And so I'm very much a student. No matter what my certificates say, I'm very much a student.
And she has a lot of certificates.
Yoga is to unite, and it's not physical posture. So physical postures, those are actually asana. So yoga would be a state of mind, a state of being, a state of truth. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. What was the next question after that?
And then how can we let me make sure I'm saying it right. How can we use it to find our truth and to help us during these hard times?
Rest. We are constantly in a state of doing. Do. Even with the physical postures sometimes, right? You got to do the physical postures, which you don't have to do. There's something profound about rest when the mind shuts off or the mind starts to still. Inner truth kind of shines through. So when all of the chaos, all the preconditioned thinkings, all the stress of the day kind of start to melt away, that part of us that never changes, the part of us that is there from the time we are born till the time, for eternity, right? The unchanging part starts to shine through, even if it's little glimpses of that. And the moment the glimpse of that is felt, it's hard to forget, or maybe impossible to forget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a good feeling when you're in
I
that
know, and
place.
I love how you talk, because I can tell that you're tuning in to your heart, soul, and I feel like you're tuning into your heart, soul, and divine connection and seeing what words come through you when you talk.
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware of that?
A little bit, yes. Yeah, because it's kind of those things like, okay, what does it feel like in my body? What are the things that were taught to me that resonates with me? The best way to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. No, but it reminds me of, in our episode we just had a couple weeks ago, it was about ways to be mindfulness. And one of the tips on being more mindful is to listen. And the word listen, when you move it around, is spelled silent. You can move the letters around. And so one of the ways to be mindful is taking a pause to think of what you're going to respond instead of already kind of having a knowing. And so I feel like you also do that.
Yeah. There is, speaking of listening, there is a mudra. It's called Kachori Mudra. And Kachori Mudra is where you take your tongue and you stick it to the roof of your mouth. You curl it back. And so then you can hear what somebody is saying, but it also creates this boundary. Like, let's say if somebody's not saying very nice things, right? You could create a boundary like, I see you, I hear you, but I'm not going to let what you say in, right? But it also gives us the ability to respond to something versus react to something.
Nice.
So that's a beautiful thing to do in the process of learning to listen. And I practice listening every day. I haven't got it down 100% yet, but that's something I totally practice.
It is. Yeah. I know. It is. So
well, I just did the tongue curling back thing, and it tickled.
Well, does it work as well just to put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, or you have to curl it too?
No, yeah, well, it's all one motion, yeah?
Yeah, there's a marma point back there, but in all reality, yes. I mean, if you're mindful of it, yes. Yes.
Got it. Okay, because I feel like I always do that. I wanted to bring up, with the pandemic and with the way the world is, and even hopefully as things get better, it's going to take a while for people to heal and overcome and even understand what has just gone on in many ways. And we have seen, we do a lot on our show with the Imperfectly Perfect campaign, a global campaign for mental health awareness, reducing the stigma around mental health, addiction, suicide, you name it. And we've seen a big rise in not only suicides, but addiction and eating disorders. And so I know that you work and have worked in mental health facilities, in prisons, all different types of places with your yoga therapy. What is your perception on what's going on with these addictions and eating disorders?
Everybody's story is different. So it's hard to judge and say what's going on as a whole, right? But there is a lot more isolation, which addiction can already be a very isolating thing, at times feel very shameful thing. So then when we're experiencing shame, we don't really necessarily like to share or be around certain people. So isolation is a huge thing. It's a coping tool to balance the nervous system with all of the sensory stuff coming in, the news, the notifications, fear. It's an attempt to balance the nervous system, to reach outside, to grab something, to find balance. That would be in my opinion. So as a collective, it's really just an attempt to balance the nervous system.
Right. And what about the eating disorders? Is that more of control, or it's very similar?
I would say, well, yeah, it can be definitely a control, but in a sense, a control of the nervous system, right? A control of the emotions on inside of the body. So really, I don't want to say addictions are all alike, right? But there's a similarity, right? It's no different than sometimes, for me, sometimes I'll catch myself opening the fridge door looking for answers. You know what I mean? And then it's like, what am I doing here? I'm not hungry, right? It's an attempt to balance the nervous system, right? And sometimes it comes from a subconscious thing, and it's the quickest route to maybe feel a sense of numbness or quiet or peace. In some people, it's a way to feel social for some, depending on the addiction, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it totally resonates, because a lot of listeners have heard me say, in the last 3 years or so, I've had just extreme hormonal issues. And it had gotten so bad some of the time that I was drinking a lot because they weren't giving me any of the right medications or anything to fix these physical symptoms that were just debilitating. And I had to finally get to the right person to give me the right medication to balance me, because I was drinking too much because I couldn't take it anymore. And now I feel balanced because I'm on the right medication. My hormones feel more balanced, and I'm able to drink very tiny amounts and just be fine, no addiction. It's because I found the solution. And so everybody's got a different story, but I could see why sometimes, until someone gets the right help, they get into this desperation feeling of like, I need to balance and I need to feel okay, but that isn't the answer.
Right. It's the quickest way, and maybe to the best of some people's ability in the time and moment,
Right.
Or the tool that they have in their bag, which, definitely, in my opinion, needs to be met with some compassion and understanding, for sure.
Right. I agree.
Oh, getting deep.
Deep
Okay.
stuff, yeah.
So what's the difference between fear and courage and good and bad fear?
Ooh. Okay. So we'll start with the second question first. There's good fears and then there's bad fears, right? The good fears are the fears that keep us safe. So if our house was to catch on fire, right, we have a fear, I got to get out of here, okay? Mm-hmm. The bad fears are the fears that stop us from growth. The bad fears are the fears that stop us from trying new experiences or maybe getting something that we desire. And the difference between fear and courage, they kind of go hand in hand, right? Fear is just fear, but when you experience courage, it doesn't mean that fear is dissolved, right? It means you're stepping into it even though the fear is there.
Right, you have to have courage to feel your fear.
To experience that emotion. Yeah, and recognize that it's just there. So, even if you just close your eyes and observe, what's going on in your body. Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? If you can name it, what is it? Is it fear? Okay, well, maybe you could take it a step farther. Well, where is that fear rooted from?
Right.
Is this fear in the current moment? Or is this a fear of something that happened 10, 15 years ago that's coming up right now? And I think just that observation process allows us to move forward with courage.
Nice. It always reminds me, and it always has helped me since I've seen that movie, We Bought a Zoo. And it's such a good movie. And what's his name? God, I can't think of his name. The famous actor.
It's called Benjamin. His name is Benjamin Mee. I know that quote very well. Benjamin Mee.
But the actor says it, and I can't think of his name right now. But famous actor, good looking. He talks about when you have fear that you just gather 20 seconds of courage to push through. And I feel like that's so true. Like, if you just get past that, you're like, I did it. And then you can remind your mind, like, I just did this, and then that'll give you even more courage. So I feel like a lot of it is about your mind, your mindset, and how you're thinking about it and how you're defining it.
I know you teach yoga, and you go to a lot of different mental health institutions for that. And I know during COVID you haven't done it for a while. But is that used for some of these people to help them with their mental health?
Absolutely. Yes. So currently the only place that I'm in is right now, I'm still going to the mental health hospital. Inpatient hospital. Yep. The other places I'm not going to right now, but absolutely. The combination of Eastern and Western medicine, shouldn't say medication, is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Yes.
I love it. So we want to get a little deeper even. How are you the way you are? Like, you have gone through so many extreme. One of the things you've gone through would probably give most people an excuse to just give up and not do anything and use that as their, not even crutch, but just as their excuse. Like, oh, well, I can't do that now. And you not only overcame these things, but you're a yoga teacher, which most people would say, I can't even move, So how did you get there? I feel like that's going to inspire so many of us that have gone through tough things. And I love your analogy about the dirt and the roots and the flower and the seeds. And can you expand a little bit on what have you gone through and how have you triumphed over it the way you have?
Yes. If I'm taking up too much time, let me know and just stop.
We have time.
Yeah, you can expand. It's okay.
Okay. if I go back into the story, I believe, oh gosh, I think my first heart surgery was around 14 to 15 years old. But prior to that, so even prior to the heart surgeries, I was incredibly athletic. I grew up in the country. I grew up in nature. I spent a lot of time outside and in the water, jet skiing and tubing and all of these things, okay? When I experienced the heart surgeries, there was a dramatic shift afterwards. A lot of depression and anxiety, and I believe it stemmed from not only just the fear of, am I going to make it through this? What's going on? What the heck? But also not being able to play sports anymore. So naturally, I guess I shouldn't say naturally, I tried medication. It didn't turn out so good for me. I kind of went bonkers off of it. Actually, they had to slowly taper me off of the medicine. But it, in a sense, for me, and I want to be very, very careful with my words when I say this, because I definitely am not recommending this, I'm not saying medicine is a bad thing, because, I take medicine for my heart. This particular medicine just wasn't good for me. So I want to be very, very clear on that. But in that time, it was kind of like, here, take a pill for all the trauma you've been through and you might get better. It didn't work out so good. Okay. Right. And I slowly started to gravitate towards a different group of friends. And I still hung out with everybody and I just loved everybody. One thing we all had in common that was never talked about was emotional pain of some sort or another. And we partied like rock stars, okay? If that, I should say that, okay? Very unhealthily, okay? Like, probably not the best thing.
This was earlier before the surgeries.
This happened after the surgeries.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You did that after. Okay.
After the surgeries, yeah. So prior to that, I was in sports and I was doing all of these things, right? And I think if somebody would have said, Ashley, you're experiencing trauma, I would have been like, huh? What's that? No, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm totally okay. But now after reflection, I totally see it through and through. So I got to know these people very well, right? And everybody kind of had their own addictions and their own things, which led me into some not so good relationships. And I want to be careful, as far as, with the domestic violence and the sexual abuse. I don't want to exactly put it in the story right where it was, just because I don't.
I get it.
I don't want to stop people from growing. Okay. That's another part of forgiveness for me, is to not cause any harm on another being. Okay. So I'm just going to add, in those unhealthy relationships, those things happened as well. Okay. Which was also probably very deeply rooted in their own childhood traumas, if that makes sense.
For more information on Eden, go to edensustin.com. For more information on Kim, go to kimlifecoach.com. Make sure to follow them on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Talk Purpose and Truth Podcast. If you loved this episode, you'll love every episode. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Thank you for listening.